General Cope and his army marched out of their camp at Haddington at around 9 o'clock on the morning of the 20th of September. At the same time, Charles Edward started moving the Jacobite army out of their camp at Duddingston. Now, initially, Cope followed the main road onto the heights, the line of the old A1 that we're standing beside now. But he didn't get as far as we have. He didn't get as far as this spot here at the village of Gladsmuir, because the landscape here is starting to change. He knows there's a likelihood of a battle soon, and so he needs to look at the landscape and the roads that he chooses with a careful tactician's eye. And if he were to carry on along this road, he would eventually come to the village of Tranent. But the approaches to Tranent are covered with enclosures, with open coal pits, and then with the narrow bottleneck of the village itself. Instead, Cope decides to move his army off the main road and down there onto the coastal plain, a landscape which he described as being much more fit for their purposes. Down there, he might have a clear field of fire and space to manoeuvre his cavalry, his principal advantages over the Jacobite army, of course. When Cope's army struck off the main road and headed to the north, it came down this road here. So imagine, as we move towards Seton and towards the moment of confrontation, imagine Cope's army, 2,500 men, 700 or so of them mounted on horses, 6 cannons, 6 mortars, all the army's baggage, all processing down this narrow road, heading down towards the coastal plain. At the bottom, they'll turn left towards Long Nidri, and from there past St. Germans and on towards Seton. Once the army was down on the coastal plain, it turned westwards, heading towards Prestonpans and then to Musselburgh. But it didn't get that far. Once it had passed St. Germans and was close to this spot here, near the ancient palace at Seton, the order was given for the column to halt. Seton Palace was once one of the finest Renaissance houses in Scotland, but now, in 1745, it was derelict, disused and falling into disrepair. It had been forfeited by the Earls of Winton for their support of the 1715 Jacobite uprising. But now, in its shadow, the column of Sir John Cope's army began to shuffle its feet, take a slug from the canteen, spread a few laughs or rumours, because the men knew that this delay could only mean one thing. And sure enough, after a pause of about an hour, the general resumed the march. The Jacobite army had been positively identified this time, crossing the River Esk at Musselburgh. They were coming out to meet Johnny Cope's army, and in the fields beyond us here, there would be the decisive battle of this campaign. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon of the 20th of September 1745, then, Cope's army deploys into this field here. The harvest had just been collected, and on the ridge above them, they could see the Jacobite army forming. They didn't know it yet, but the soldiers down here had reached the end of their road to defeat. In the next few hours, the first shots of the Battle of Prestonpans would be fired. The first lives would be lost, but it would not be until the following morning that the main attack came in. Within 15 hours or so of the army entering this field, General Cope's army would cease to exist.